So, hello and welcome. This leap day, leap year webinar. Today, we are going to review some, like Gabby said, some basic functionality as well as some new features. We had a lot of requests for batching overview for many people for the webinar. So that's what we've chosen to start with this year. We have on the agenda batching overview. We're going to go over just the kind of the flow of the batches. We're going to look at buckets, batching rules, and the organization of the batching list and the bucket lists. New features, we have several. While we weren't releasing a lot of things during peak season, we were absolutely busy, still working on the requests that have been made by all of you. And then we have a couple of critical updates and some exciting new things coming. Since this is going to be such a heavy, full of information, we're going to please try to use the Q&A. We'll stop a couple of times along the way to answer questions, but the Q&A is enabled, so please put your questions there. And we'll also have a poll at the end of the webinar, so you guys can give us some feedback. It's always important. All right, so to start, we're going to look at batching. All right, so this basically is just how the batching works. We batch to combine like items to optimize your production. It can be driven by different rules and different values that you assign to your products. So product is sent in an order. The order is received and it's processed through the pre-press pipeline. You have your file in position, your autoflow is done, the file is checked, and then the order becomes print ready. At that point, the production start is then calculated, and then the items that get put in a bucket. So your production start is determined by the ship by date minus SLA days. Once that calculation is done, the items that have the same attributes will go into a bucket. The bucket then collects products that fall within that after that production start time. Once the production start time is met, then the bucket is closed by reaching a threshold. It's either by quantity, time, or an aggregate number that is set in the batching rule. At that time, the bucket closes and the batch is created. So in the bucket, we have the ability to list its rule, product, batch by attributes, item count, quantity, and thresholds, whether or not it's exact, and when its next close date is. So that is all at the top here in your bucket list. In the filters, we have the ability to change several items here just to filter by different items to see the bucket that you want to see, to find it easier. Then you can hover over a date next to the close to show the exact closing date and time of the bucket. Let's go ahead and take a look here. As soon as I find my So here's our bucket list. We have the ability to show attributes or hide the attributes. We can choose which buckets we want to see, either all, the ones closing in the next 7 days, or the ones closing today. We can filter by batch rule. Here you can see I've got 2 created here. Inside the bucket, we have the batch rule, whether or not it's going to try to close it with the exact quantity. Current quantity, item count, next close time, and the threshold. Here we can filter, we can create rules here. Days start, days end, the source, SKU, and the source order. So if you have a bucket with many items, then these can be used to filter and make things a lot easier to see. Then here we have the ability to batch selected items. So we can manually batch here. Can also manually batch here. All right. So if you don't manually batch your bucket or close your bucket, then it will automatically close based on the batching rules the project is assigned to. So there's 3 different headings here. You have the general batch rule menu, which gives you the batch rule name, the rule type, whether you want to batch by single items, and then a new option here, which is batch by ship date, as well as which days you want to batch on, and the closing time products here. Then there's the sorting tab, where you can sort items within a bucket, and then you can sort the items within the batch. Now these will be the jobs for production, whether it's in the imposition or in the JDF. You also have your thresholds for quantity, where you choose a minimum amount, number, and a maximum. If you choose attempt exact quantity, this maximum threshold is no longer available. And the aggregate thresholds as well. You can choose different values here, including an attribute or maybe by page count to make the batch close based on some more fine detail for an aggregate. So the batching rules are used to group the similar product combinations together to create a batch. If product is not added to a batch rule, items batch individually. So that means that if the product is not added, every order that comes in, each item will be its own batch. Right. So here we have our batching rules. Under production, batching rules, and then I've just chosen one. This is where we can choose our batch by ship date. This one is going to close in very soon. And it will close on Monday through Friday at that time. Something to point out here are the working days. The production start time will never fall on a non-working day as well. Your ship by date will never fall on a non-working day. So that will affect how your batch closes and what days they close on. Oh, went to the wrong. Here we go, sorting. This is where you would sort the items in the bucket. You have a specific thing that you want to sort by. Also here, this attribute values will not be available unless you have attributes added to your product, to your component. And here we can choose several different things to sort by, and then in that order. So moving them around, we'll we'll sort by page count first, attribute, and then source item ID. Here's your thresholds. If we attempt to that quantity, you notice this becomes gray and it's no longer available. And here are your aggregate thresholds. You have the choice of total page count or a number attribute. All right. Next, once the batch is created, you can see the batch added to a list. So you have multiple filtering options here as well. You select to filter the batches by date range, or you can choose yesterday's date, this past week, past year. Live batches are shown by default, but you can also filter batches by their status, reprint, imposition status, or event type. In addition, you can search by a batch number. You can view all the details of a batch inside the batch view. Once we get it selected, I'll show you. We have the batch stats, the blocks, impositions, and other settings. And you can view your JDF with the JDF tester. So here we have our batch list. And the filter status, reprint, imposition status, and event type. Then we can choose a date range, past day, past week, month, or year. We also search by batch number. And by default, we see that this batch status is live. If you have a batch that you're looking for that's complete, you'll need to remove that status before searching. Okay, so we click into our batch. And I found one that is very interesting. The top here, we have our work plan for each component within the batch. So the cover is going to go through each one of these steps. And what we have is the device that it's scheduled to go to, the status, the date, the due date. And then you notice the content here has a different work plan. And this is the schedule here. Okay, so from here we see the thumbnail, product name, quantity, how many pages, how many jobs are within. We have batch by, ship by date is false in this case. Single item is true, and the reprint is false. What we're missing is our attributes. Let me grab that. Then we have our batch by attributes listed here. From here, you can navigate to the product, the batch rule. You can view the list of jobs, the event that it's currently in, the latest batch imposition template used, and then we can also sync with the schedule here. So let's just do a quick one here. We see the jobs. There's only one job list here, but we click into it, you can get all the details of the job here. And then again, more navigation on the right. From here, you can also see the send to device state. Since this one has not been sent to a device, it shows as pending. Then we have our number of blocks, the quantity, pages, and jobs. And for each block that is created, we have the ability to view and print the batch sheet from here. Other properties listed here. Then we also can find details about the batch, the close time, why it was closed, the message that was given when it was closed bucket manually. Then we have our SLA and the latest SLA of the batch. Then we have our in position. Toggling this on and imposing the batch will replace the file that's sent to the device if you're using auto send to device, but it will also update the status of the imposition. Let's say we had a failed imposition here or a processing imposition. If you do not update the production files, then the status of the imposition does not update it as well. We sync files here. Those will be the files that are going to be imposed. Here we can resync the batch. The imposed file for, and that's used on accounts that use local files, not the cloud files. We choose our imposition template. You can see that we have, this one is the one that is assigned. Then we have any alternative impositions that are assigned at the product level. And then you have all of them listed below that. So you can choose any of the imposition templates that are available at the batch level. We have the settings for the batch. You have your JDF template, your batch sheet template. We can change our block size here, pages or jobs, and save. Then in the test JDF, we can see how our handlebar templates are populating the right or sometimes the wrong information. You can check it here. So, say your job is not making it to the device, and you just don't see anything, no error message or anything, then this is where we see where our ISV matches, and if it doesn't, then that could be the issue. So sometimes this data is very helpful, and how this is structured compared to what the device allows. Okay. So in batches, I already showed you, there is a new feature to sort by ship by date or batch by ship by date, and those options are at the batch level instead of at the product level. All right, so I'll stop here. Do we have any questions, Gabrielle? You're muted.
Now it's better. I'm muted. So yeah, we have a very good question from Rob. He was asking if there is a way to get individually batched items to delay to close until a given time. So I think this is a very nice example of this site flow puzzles, where you start combining different functionalities coming from several areas. So one way we could potentially accomplish this is combining the aggregate batching rules with attributes, which is a topic that we'll touch in the new features in a few moments. Okay, so something that it needs testing, but something that maybe we could try here is you could define a new attribute for your product. This attribute would be just a copy of the order ID. So that will help you that if you make this attribute a batch by attribute to make sure that all your orders are individually batched. Okay, so that would be one. Then when you go into your batching rule, you could go to the aggregate tab and put a threshold of 2, 5, 10. Anything would work because that would be a threshold unreachable because we are batching by the source order ID, which is unique for every order, right? So that will cause the order to stay in the bucket waiting to reach the thresholds. Because the aggregate threshold is unreachable, it will only close by time, by schedule, right? So the schedule, you decide on your batching rule that you want to close your batches, say at midnight. So the batch with a single item, single order will close at midnight. So something around this concept may be able to accomplish to you were asking, Robert. Again, it will need maybe some testing to fine tune to your needs, but something on those lines. And as you can see, guys, it requires combining different things. No? So you need to have your attributes defined, batch by your attributes, fill in the attributes maybe with a formula that suits your needs, and then you grab the result of your calculated attribute and use it as an aggregate threshold in the batching rule to manage when you close things. In this case, you are not closing, you are pausing it until that time.
Yeah, I'm not sure I mentioned it or not either, but you must have at least one time threshold and one quantity threshold. So there's something to keep in mind that functionality has not changed, or those requirements haven't changed.